Okay, so now we're going to handle the actual cloning, or at least get the process of cloning started here from a 500. So we have, I just want to show you here too, actually. We have two drives here. Let me move this, it's got kind of glary there. Lighting is not the best. But the drive all the way to the left is the bad drive, or the system that wouldn't boot. And you can see it's a Western Digital drive. Second drive is the one that works fine, but we're going to actually upgrade to the last one here, which is a Samsung 2 terabyte. This one here, I'm sure you can see it somewhere. It's a 500 gigabyte drive. It says it up in the upper left corner there, third line. Anyways, so I just want to show you that Microsoft does not discriminate between hard drive manufacturers. You'll find Western Digital, you'll find Seagate, you'll find Samsung. You find all sorts of drives. Samsung and Seagate are actually the same thing these days, but that's a story for another day. Samsung makes, they're not the same when it comes to solid state drives, but when it comes to spindle drives, Seagate uses the Samsung name, but they actually have nothing to do with it. Well, maybe they do. Maybe it's all Samsung parts anyways, I guess. Anyways, so I'm going to actually hook up both these drives. Oh, and the other thing I want to make a point for, and I think I showed you this earlier, is the drive thickness can differ quite a bit. So I just want to show you here, maybe this is probably the best way to illustrate it. You can see the top drive. Let me get the light again. You can see that the top drive here goes right to the top edge. See those connectors? It literally is as wide as the connectors are. The drive below it is a bit taller. For the Xbox One, it doesn't really matter. In fact, here, let me even show you. I have a 4 terabyte drive here. Which is actually what I used to discover that you needed which is what I discovered, that 2 terabytes is your max, but here's a 4 terabyte drive. This one I couldn't get to work right in the Xbox One. It can be used as a 2 terabyte drive if you make the partitions a little bit smaller, but otherwise it won't function as a 4 terabyte in the Xbox One. It just doesn't boot. It doesn't see the last 3 partitions when the user partition is larger than 2 terabytes. Which I think is why the new Xbox One S is, the top of the line Xbox One S is only 2 terabytes. I don't think they can physically go any bigger. At least not with the existing operating system. That may change in the future, of course. But yeah, okay, yes. Here's all the thicknesses compared. Right. So my point being, the bottom one there does fit fine in the Xbox One. The height doesn't matter. It just needs to be, I don't have that tray on me, but the tray that it actually sits in is expecting a 2.5, a 2.5 inch drive, and not the larger 3.5 inch drives. And honestly, it wouldn't matter anyways. There's no advantage to that because I would just generate more heat. And since you can't go larger than 2 terabytes anyways, what's the point? So anyway, so we're going to put our bad drive aside. We're not going to worry about that one for now. In fact, we can't really do anything with that one. But we're going to take the customer's, basically we're going to clone the customer's 500 to this new 2 terabyte. And I'm going to do that with my laptop. Now, the reason I showed you again the actual height of the drives is that this laptop cannot handle drives that are thicker than the first drive there I showed you that was only as tall as the actual connector. So to get around that, I have to use a fancy cable here. Let's see if I can find it. Here it is. So I actually have a SATA extension cable with the ends kind of cut off here. Let me move the light again, because make sure you can actually see the end of that. Yeah. So I cut off the outer things here, but essentially what that allows us to do, I'll show you. So this guy, there we go. This laptop actually has this weird sort of slotted connector for the SATA port, which is right here. So you kind of fit that in there, and then that's how the drive then slides into that, like so. So you need to use this weird connector I have. See if I can kind of fit in there to kind of push it in, and there you go. Now it is a little bit loose. So I usually take, see if I got a piece of tape. Yeah, so I usually take a little piece of electrical tape here to hold it in place. I know it's not the most professional thing, but it does allow me to use my laptop with 2 drives that are SATA connected. I could use USB for both, which is fine. It's just a little bit slower. The SATA is a bit faster. Now, if I had all USB 3 connectors, which I don't, I think USB 3 is actually, well, that's the difference between SATA. I think SATA 3 is faster than USB 3. USB 3 is faster than SATA 2. This is a SATA 2 laptop with USB 2.0 ports, so in that particular case, SATA is better. Just take my word on it. Okay, so there we go. So now, flip it over. We got this connector. We're going to hook up the, we're going to use the old hard drive. We're going to connect it to that connector there. Okay, so let's see if we can get all this. Move this a little bit. Let's see if we can get all this on camera here. So here's our customer drive. I'll hook that up. So we hook that. Let's see which way that goes. Okay, so it's going to go like this. It's kind of hard to do one-handed. Let me see if I can put this stuff down and kind of just get the camera to see all this. Yeah, here we go. I'll just move the, plus it'd be better for you. It won't be so shaky. Anyways, here we go. We'll do the connector like so. And then I showed before, show it again. I have this connector that comes from my actual desktop. And it's just a single Molex I took from directly off the power supply in the desktop. But you can buy, there's a lot of ways you can do this. You can actually buy a wall adapter, which gives you a Molex on one end, or it gives you a SATA connector, which is another way to do it. And actually is a way I used to do it in the past, but this is obviously a bit cheaper because now I can just directly use my desktop. Anyways, so that's that drive connected. Now the other drive, the one we're going to clone to, now I have a splitter on here. So we have this drive. Get rid of these little. So we have a splitter here from the Molex, so we can actually hook up 2 drives. So let's do that. Let's plug in. Again, let me put the camera down. So I'm going to plug this in the splitter. There we go. And then I have yet another special cable here. Let's see. Now, not everybody has these cables, and I understand that. It's just sort of an example of what I do, but you might have to figure out how to get your own thing connected. If you have a desktop, it's great because you probably have, you know, at least 2 SATA ports, if not more. My desktop actually has 4 SATA ports, so I could do it in my desktop. But the laptop's easier because I don't need to, you know, I don't have it booted all the time, and I can just sort of, it's, you know, I can basically do this stuff anywhere. Anyways, so this actually happens to be that my laptop has an external SATA connector, which is nice. Most laptops don't. And in that case, there we go. In that case, you would want to use something like this, that X360 USB Pro. But honestly, any sort of SATA to USB adapter would work. In fact, in this case, you would need 2 of those. And sometimes you buy the kits, and they can actually, they come with the power connector and everything. I know, I think it's called Max Sales, Otherworld Computing, maxsales.com sells some. That's actually the ones I own. But you can get them from basically any place. But there we go. So we have both drives connected. So now we're just going to do the last bit, where we take our flash drive, which is somewhere here. Here it is, the clone. And actually, this is a part of the reason I do this too, because now I have both SATA connectors, and I'm using, I think I only have 2 USB ports on here. So I'm using one of the 2, yeah, let's see. It's VGA, sorry for the, yeah, it's VGA on that side, and an audio connector, and then on this side it's just, and the light is creating such a glare, there you go, it's 2 USBs and an HDMI, and then on the back there's a network connector. Anyways, okay, so there we go. The only other thing to do is make sure your laptop, now you're looking at my floor, and make sure your laptop is plugged in here. That way we don't have to worry about it shutting off, you know, the battery running out. Okay, alright, so that's everything. Let me try to push the light back out of the way. You'll be able to see the screen pretty well without any kind of assisted lighting here. So let's open up the laptop, push everything back a little bit, best we can here. Everything is definitely all connected up. Okay, I just want you to be able to see boot screen here. Here we go. Again, I apologize for all the emotion. Okay, so we're going to turn this on. You can see everything here. It's funny, the glare. We're going to hit F12 to get our boot options. It probably would default fine to booting from the flash drive, but... So usually there's some special button on your desktop or laptop to get it to boot into a menu of some sort. And I usually use, so depending on your laptop, it doesn't really matter. You can use either or here. You can use the USB storage device or the UEFI. I won't get into that, but if you have that option, I would say select that option. All right, we're going to take the default, so we're just going to load up Clonezilla Live. This was in the earlier video on actually creating this. And aside from having all the right equipment to hook this stuff up, this is actually a pretty straightforward process. It literally just loads into menus which allow you to kind of pick what you want to do. And what I'll do here, let me see. There you go. A little better or less glare off the ceiling. There we go. Okay, so we're going to take the first default English, just enter on that. Key map, you don't need to worry about that. That's if you wanted to, I don't know, maybe you had a strange keyboard and you got to map certain keys to other keys. Okay, we're going to say start Clonezilla. So this is the only one where you don't take the default. There may be a couple others, but I know this is probably the first one that comes up. We're going to do device to device, because we have 2 physical hard drives. Believe it or not, I just usually pick beginner. Seems to always be good. And we want to do disk to local disk, which is the top one. A bunch of other options. I've honestly never used them, but like I said, this is a pretty great piece of software, so you can do a lot of things. And this is pretty cool. So this allows us to select the source. And I already see a problem here because we don't see the second drive. But here, let's see. Maybe it'll be on this next menu. Nope. Okay. Now why that is, don't exactly know. Okay, here we go again. So the fix for seeing both drives was, instead of using the drives on one split Molex, as you can see here, this is the original drive. I've borrowed yet another power connector from my desktop that was separate. It's coming actually from the DVD drives here. But now it has its own separate power connector. And that seems to have made all the difference, so let's boot it up here. The 2 terabyte drive was just not getting enough power draw, so it was making this tiny silent clicking sound where it just didn't have enough to actually spin up the drive. So now we have it with its own independent power supply. It should show up, and we can actually start the clone process. It seems a little weird using a laptop and then borrowing all the desktop power. I would suggest if you have a desktop to just use that completely to clone. If you have a laptop, maybe you have one that has different connector types than mine. Maybe you can actually put a hard drive in it. That would be great. Or you could just use 2 USB to SATA connectors with their own independent power supplies. Seems every time I do this, I have sort of a different configuration, trying out different things, and as a result get kind of different results. But here we go. All right, so we're picking all the defaults so I picked before. Basically, we want to do disk direct to disk, so we're not doing any kind of images or anything like that. But here's what we're looking to see. We can see the 500 gigabyte drive, and we can see the 2000 gigabyte drive. So first it's going to ask for the source. So we want to clone from the 500 gig, and we want to the target, which is the 2000 gigabyte drive. And this one is to check to see if the file system needs repair. Yeah, I would suggest doing this because I think when it actually wants to copy the source, it wants to make sure the source file system is clean. So it's probably a good idea. We'll just pick the second, so we might have to confirm some things, but let's allow that to happen. All right, so here we go. Next time, and it kind of gives us actually a quick, short command line, we could actually type instead of using the GUI next time, but the GUI is fine and it's quick enough to get through. We're going to hit enter to continue. Now what it's doing is checking the 2 terabyte drive to see if there's anything on it and warning you that there is, and it's going to delete it. I actually already had this drive pre-formatted, has an Xbox One drive. You can see the second partition there, the 1.7 terabytes. That's where all the great extra space comes from, is that second partition. And that one, once it's extended over 2 terabytes, you won't be able to see 3, 4, and 5 anymore. Don't know why that is, but you just you're at this point, Xbox One's limited to 2 terabyte internal drives. And yes, we want to continue. We're okay with it getting destroyed. And again, it's saying all your data is going to be destroyed. It's fine. And we'll hit yes. Now you can see it's checking A. Hence the skip FSCK. All right, so I guess it doesn't matter. It can't actually check. Let's see kind of what's going on here. So where we told it to check, it doesn't matter. It can't actually do it because it's NTFS. So, which is fine, honestly. The when you hook up the drive to Windows from right out of an Xbox One system, it'll say, "Oh, this file system hasn't been checked. Do you want to check it?" You can skip it. But it's going to ask every time. So if you say yes to actually check it, it'll be fine. It'll say there's no errors, but it also will create a file on the file system to let Windows know that it's been checked and the file system is clean, and it won't ask you again. I did that as a precaution here. Just figured maybe it wouldn't want to copy a file system that wasn't clean, but it doesn't seem to really care. And it is clean, but it didn't have any check file, so that might have caused a problem, but it didn't here. But anyways, you can see so it's going to do all 5 partitions. It's doing dev SDA1. In the Linux world, we're going to cover this a bit when we actually use the Ubuntu disk to create an Xbox One hard drive. And I'll show you that process in a bit, where you have to figure out which drive it is you want to work against. In this case, we have both drives attached. The one that we want to clone is essentially the internal drive, so that shows up as A. The one we're cloning to over there shows up as B in this case, and you saw some reference to that. And that's a whole Linux idea, the device directory, DEV, and the SDA. I forget what that stands for, but essentially that's how it labels its internal drives. It might be SATA disk. It might all be that stands for. SD. And then there's A, B, C, D, depending on how many drives you have attached. And the 1 is referring to the first partition. So this will take a while. I'm not going to sit here and do it all. I'll probably just start another video up when it's done, just so you can see what the final screen looks like. But it's going to automatically go through each one. And like I said, this is a 44 gigabyte. There's 25 gigabytes that needs to be copied. And you can see it's going to take about 4 minutes. But rather than have you watch all this, we'll get to the end. All right, come back in a bit. Okay, so I don't know how long it's been because I didn't actually wait on this whole process. Yeah, it's complaining about space available stuff, but we're there. Anyways, it's done at this point. This is what it looks like when it's finished. Let's see, when everything is done, remember to use power reboot command. All right, so enter to continue. I think it pretty much tells us what to do next. Yeah, so we're gonna power it off because essentially now everything's cloned. We're going from a 500 gigabyte drive to a 2 terabyte drive, and the reason we're cloning it is in order to get a 2 terabyte drive, you need to have a working 500 as the source. You can't just build a 2 terabyte drive directly.